better for newer runners because they don't have to learn as much to like go for these better times. But it is kind of cool to play the game without the manips because you really get to kind of route as you go, which makes it a lot more fun. And like for some of us, like I like kind of thinking more as I do my speed runs, so routing as I go makes them a lot more fun.
Yeah, it seems like that. I guess I should, for people listening, that I know a lot about the Pokemon. I've like, watched a lot of Pokemon runs, obviously, so I try not to get too deep so that I don't talk about these kind of inside things too much. But yeah, so I think it's really interesting how it's changed for sure. But I think also you lose some of that, like you said, you lose some of that spontaneity when, like sometimes when watching people run like some games where it's like, everything that's going to happen. And like there's some points of RNG for sure, but it's like still, we're going to do this, we're going to do this. And for me, that's not as cool as a watcher, you know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So, I mean, how's the speedrun community like, for someone on the outside? I mean, it looks like every time there seems like there's, in the GDQs and stuff, it seems like it's a tight-knit group. Everyone's having fun. It seems like everyone's helping each other get better. But is it appearances are deceiving or is that really true?
Oh, the GDQs are amazing. Like, especially, it's kind of grown to the point, I've been going to GDQs since SGDQ 2014, and kind of back then it was smaller, so everyone kind of knew everyone, and now they're huge. I mean, speedrunning's exploded, especially over these last couple years, but you can definitely still find like these tight-knit communities within the GDQs. So like, for example, the Pokemon speedrunners, all of us will hang out, and then a lot of people have like Twitch teams, so you get to hang out with all of those friends, and you kind of have like smaller communities within the giant scope of the speedrun community, but like there's so much intertwining between the communities that like everyone in a sense does still know everyone, just maybe a degree or two of separation.
So I guess I want to ask you, how about someone like Worcester? How is he seeing the real Pokemon community? Because I know he's obviously a beast at the game. There's no question about that. He's done a lot of stuff for the games, but he has a checkered past. He's banned from GDQs a few times, stuff like that. So how is he seen in the Pokemon community from someone that's inside it?
I personally have a ton of respect for Worcester. He's a very solid runner. He's had a lot of influence on the game. He's very controversial with some of his decisions, but I know like deep down he really just wants like what's best for the community, even though sometimes he'll come off as kind of hot-headed or maybe say something that if he took a minute to think he wouldn't necessarily say. But a lot of respect for the guy. I think a lot of people in the Pokemon community share that thought, and just sometimes he's a bit controversial, but overall just has the community's best interests at heart.
Yeah, I mean, there's no doubt he's not an awesome player for sure.
He's.
So I think he just has has a record in many of the games. But so I think you're most well known, as you said, for your Gotta Catch 'Em All run, 2015. Over 1 million views on YouTube. So can you tell us anything behind the scenes of that? It's like is this something, a huge build-up? Was there anything kind of extra nervous about that you're happy it pulled off, or anything particularly memorable from that?
Oh yeah, that run was probably the highlight of my my speedrunning career was that run. Catch 'Em All is I wouldn't call it a marathon safe run. It's very difficult. There's so much that can go wrong. There were no manipulations back then, so it's definitely a route as you go kind of run. And I usually run it with a 40-page note document like sitting next to me, so I can always kind of like glance over and be like, okay, I'm in this situation, okay, and kind of like get my head cleared up. But you can't really run it with notes at a GDQ. And so I had to keep track of like all 151 Pokemon and like what's going on in the run. So overall, like the experience was pretty ridiculous. Like the run itself was very hard to do. But I spent a lot of time practicing, and kind of the other thing was we had just rerouted it like the day before I flew out to GDQ. So I was also dealing with a big reroute. So it was just all kinds of different stuff, and the run came together. It was very, very well done. I was really happy with how I played. The one huge glitch is very nerve-wracking because it's about 12 minutes straight of menus, and if you make a mistake, you crash the game instantly. So that was the part that was worrying me, and I did 2 practice runs before I like went on stage. I like practiced that, and both times I crashed. So I'm like, I was kind of worried going into it, but kept my head together, and actually nailed it there. So I was really happy with that.
Yeah, if you haven't seen that, please go watch it. It's really awesome, and it really showcases how much you have to know about the game. I think in that situation, that kind of run even more so because there's so much stuff you got to keep track of. It's crazy. So can you let us get a little bit more into that? So how much time does it take to practice that? When did you really start hardcore practicing, and how much do you practice for that? Like every day? Did you practice 8 hours a day, 2 hours a day? What did you do?
For Catch 'em All, I started running it probably right around 2014, around then, probably the later half of 2014, and I think I did runs of it probably 3 times a week, and I think the reason why I was always like so good, I guess, at Catch 'em All was I'd been around for so long, and for me, adding in, like, let's say we find a 5-minute time save, for me, I'm just kind of adding that into my, like, already, like, kind of wealth of knowledge of the Gen 1 glitched side of things, so I can just kind of add this in, and then we find another time saver, and then I can just add that in. So I just kind of, like, hoarded all the concepts that we had come up with, and so I was able to just kind of adapt as we found all the new time saves, so I was able to just do the runs like that, but for someone just getting into it, it's kind of a lot of knowledge that you kind of have to pick up on to just sit down and do your first Catch 'em All run. So it's kind of hard to get into, but once you get into it, it's just a really cool run, but very difficult.
Yeah, I think it's definitely, and also for someone that wants to watch it, you have to give it a second, because sometimes I've showed to people and they're like, I don't know what's going on, I don't care. You got to kind of know that it's going to, you got to kind of think like, okay, if you watch for 10 minutes and you understand the shenanigans and explain it, it's definitely worth it. And what do you think about, like, I think Pokemon is one of the games where people attack it from all sides more than a lot of other games, right? Because people attack, when I mean attack, I mean try to find ways to optimize it more so than a lot of games, because there's so many glitches people find. People go through the ROM like crazy, go through the code like crazy, and people are trying to get the right, manipulation and stuff. So it's like all these sides, the game is getting attacked. You know what I mean? I don't know if attack's the right word, but like, do you do any of that glitch hunting and stuff? Like, behind the scenes kind of glitch hunting?
Not so much anymore, because there's people far more equipped to do the glitch hunting than me. But I still work on, like, piecing together the stuff we find. There's kind of like 2 sides of it. There's kind of the glitch hunters, and then the routers, and then also the runners. So it's kind of like 3 different groups of people working together to get the speed run out there. So you might have some people on some of the, like, the task forums or, like, the glitch laboratories. Like, those people find the glitches, and then after we find them, we have to adapt those to the speed run. And then after we adapt those to the speed run, people need to go out and, like, do the runs to put the times out.
Everyone, it just seems like there's so much work going into Pokemon, and this the kind of, obviously you can see the community is huge too, so it's just crazy. I mean, so what are you working on these days? You have kind of a future run you're trying to get going or anything?
As of now, I'm not really streaming as much. I've kind of been busy with real life. I recently graduated, so I'm moving out on my own and whatnot, so it's been a lot harder to stream recently, but I'll be back eventually. I still have a love for Gen 1 speedruns. I'll probably work on Glitchless and Catch 'em All once I do get my time to come back, but looking forward to that. I still really do love Catch 'em All, and I want to relearn the current route eventually.
So I see you submitted some stuff for GDQ last year, but you did not get accepted. What is it? I mean, obviously you seem like a pretty chill guy. You're not going to be pissed and get pissed at that. But how did you feel when your runs get rejected? That never can be a good feeling, right?
Yeah, I'd never mind. I only submitted 2 runs. I think Yellow NSC. I'm gonna always submit that. It's the last time Yellow's been in a marathon was, well, Yellow Glitched has been in a marathon was back in, I think, 2011 by SMK. The run was 2 hours and 30 minutes, so Glitched was slower than the current Glitchless times. It was a big mess. It was a ton of fun to watch. If you haven't seen the run, you should definitely go watch it. It's hilarious. But I would really love to show off Yellow Glitched kind of in the newer way that we've routed it. I think Yellow Glitched right now is hilarious. Really silly category. Would love to get to show that off someday, especially because not so much the current route, but I've put a lot of effort into yellow glitched and like my time. I've done probably a couple thousand runs of yellow glitched, so I'm very involved in the category and would love to just show it off. It's one of the, I always call it, I have 4 runs that I always wanted to show off at GDQ, which was Catch 'em All, Gold Glitched, Yellow Glitched, and NSC. And I've shown off 3 of those at GDQs, but the 4th one's still evading me.
Yeah, hopefully you can make that happen. Yeah, so you mentioned you graduated school. You don't have to say if you don't want to, but what kind of you doing in real life? You have a lot of these people I interview, a lot of other people I interview have computing professions, things like that. Especially with you with your obviously math skills.